Welcome back to Eldeecodes. In this video, we are going to learn about HTML forms. Forms are used to collect user input. In HTML, forms are defined with the form tag. HTML forms are defined with the form tag, and the form tag is used to collect user input. This is simply saying that for you to create a form in HTML, you must first of all initiate this form tag, and every other element goes in here. Inputs are what collect actual data in a form. It is the most important element in a form. Input type attributes specify how the input should be displayed by the browser. This is simply saying that input is very important in every form, because this input here you are seeing is what collects the actual data in a form. So after you initiate your tag, which is the form tag, inside the form, you should know that this input is very important, because this is going to collect the actual data. So they have so many types of input. We have for text, for email, for password, for telephone, for radio, for checkbox, for submit, and so many others. So it depends on what you want to create, or what you type of input you want to have. That is what this type attribute is simply saying here, that the type attribute specify how the input will be displayed by the browser. So here is basically explaining what I just told you guys in the previous slide, but here I have a link that is actually taking us to the W3 school, which you can actually see more examples of form input, because we are not going to learn all in this particular video, but I have it opened here, and you can see we have so many type of inputs. We have button, checkbox, color, date, email, file, image, month, password, number, radio, range, telephone, text, time, week, and so many others. Here we have example of text input, which is basically displaying the full name and the label. Here also we have another example, which is the radio button input. So here you have a button, which is a radio button, which is displaying either gender option. Either you choose male, female, or other. So but then this type of form is quite different from this previous form we see here. This is going to have an input field where you put in your name, while this is going to have a button option where you can choose one among the three options here. So here also we'll have another input type called submit button. So this submit, you can either use this type, input type submit, or button type submit, which is basically the same thing. Is used to display submit button for a form. So apparently when you pull this, it's going to display a button for you, which when you click it, you are submitting this entire form. And that's basically all for HTML form. We are going to get our hands dirty with codes. So I'm going to create my file. I'm going to save it as form.html. I believe by now we are familiar with basic HTML structure, so I won't be going all over again. In the previous video, we learned about section and div and how important they are to whatever we are doing. And so here I'm going to give mine an ID. So I'm going to start with creating my very first form. So we are going to recreate what we have here. So first thing, we'll have label. For first name. And here we'll have first name. and we are going to create our input. Type of input is test, and the name of this input is first name, and we are going to repeat the same thing for last name, so here there is what we call the break tag. This is basically going to break this from this, like in a new line. Okay, so although there are so many other ways to do it, when we start practicing CSS, that is going to make our work look more beautiful. Okay, so we save, then look at what we have here in the browser. So from the one we are recreating from, we are going to have another label. Label for gender. So here we are going to have gender, and we are going to create an input for them. So I'm going to copy this and paste so that it reduces time for us. So we are going to have the value of order, female and male. So when we save this, come back to the browser and refresh. So we are going to have our gender, male, female in order. So you notice I didn't break after the gender. So when we save and refresh, it's looking just like this. So we are also going to create something another input. We are going to call that one checkbox. Just as it is written here, you can click all that applies. Okay, but here you can only select one, you can't select more than one. Okay, so we are going to recreate same thing here. So I want to create a p tag to ask the question, select all that apply to you, and down here I'm going to create the checkbox. But also I would want to nest them inside a label so that it won't be confusing. So that is to say, the name of this is maybe JavaScript. So I'm going to nest this inside a label. So as you can see, this is the closing tag for this. So here for JavaScript, and when we save, go back to the browser, we'll have it. Okay, so here we are going to write our JavaScript As you can see, you can select all that applied. So we are going to repeat the same process. Command C, and here we are going to change it to HTML. CSS, CSS, CSS. So when we save, come back and refresh, we'll have them displayed this way. Okay, you can select as many options as you want. Here you can only select one because it's a radio. Okay, so I'm going to break between the first and the second so that it will look more nice. Okay, and that's basically how our checkbox is looking. So next thing, we are going to create a submit button. So in our slide, we mentioned of two ways in which you can create your button. So first of all, we are going to use an input type submit, and we are going to name it submit, and we save. So okay, when we save, here I need to put some break from here so that it will look more nice. So here you have our form, but here I also want to make it required. That is, a user can't just click the submit button and go to the next form. The user needs to fill in the required field. So we are coming back here to add required. This is an inbuilt tag from HTML. So when we save, come back and refresh, send, it will say required. When you put in something, try saving the second one, to say required. So, and that's basically all for this. But then there is also another thing I would want to show us. In case you want to add in already checked checkbox or radio, you can have it this way. You can have here checked. So when you save and come back in the browser, by default it already have a checked in mail. Okay, but if you select another one, it will definitely disappear. Okay, but on a default, when you refresh the browser, it's on a default mail. And that's basically all for today's lesson on HTML forms. Do not forget to like, comment, share. In case you have any question or you want more details on what we explain, do not forget to reach out to us in our media platform or message us directly on our email at eldeecodes@gmail.com.